Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar titled Utilizing Your Resources to Create One-of-a-Kind Displays. My name is Natalie Idem. I am a archival associate at Texas Tech University, Southwest Collection Manuscripts. And I am also a member of the Professional Development Committee through Society of Southwest Archivists. And here with me also we have Ada and Zach, who will be assisting me today. They are members of the committee as well. And I'm going to introduce our presenter, Mary Catherine Kearns. She serves as a assistant archivist for Nicholls State University Archives and Special Collections. She holds a master's degree in library and information science, certificate and certification archival studies with a dual emphasis in cultural heritage. Additionally, she also holds a bachelor's degree in fine arts with an emphasis in art history. She chairs the display committee for the Nicholls State University Library and has received several local awards for her handmade displays. Well, it's so great to have you, Mary Catherine.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'll let you get started.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome. This is Utilizing Your Resources to Create One-of-a-Kind Displays. And the images you see below, that is going to be the final result of the display, but we'll get into all that much later. Let's see. Oh, is it not letting me shift? Let's see. There we go. Okay. As mentioned, my name is Mary Catherine Kearns. Mary Catherine is my first name. I have two first names, and I am the assistant archivist at Nicholls State University Archives and Special Collections. And if anybody wants to come and pay us a visit, Nicholls is located in Thibodaux, Louisiana, along Bayou Lafourche, which is 50 miles southwest of New Orleans and 60 miles southeast of Baton Rouge. And we are welcome to have anybody who would like to come and visit. So for the objectives of this webinar, I hope that I can help you get motivated and tap into your creativity and design something that just really, truly captures the imagination and your audience's attention. You truly don't have to have any expensive, outlandish tools to create a display. You can make one with something you have at your disposal in your office or through some donations that you get into the archives. So my goal is for you to truly become inspired and help you feel organized and to get curious as you embark on your creative journey. As I explained, I share how I create my display, which took place in October in 2023. October was very busy. It is American Archivist Month, so I wanted to incorporate that into the display. It was also homecoming for the university, and 2023 was the university's 75th anniversary. So all of these themes accumulated together to create the one giant display you saw on the very first slide. Displays are so important because it is one of the ways the students can connect with us and they can learn more about the archives. Majority of the time when students come to a university, they just simply don't know much about the archives until they have their first tour. And many students, when I speak to them, they are so excited, but then they go, oh, wow, that sounds amazing. What's the archives? So these displays really do help to have students learn about the archives and want to get involved. We know how important the archives are. And if we look at our backlog, we see so many lives, so many stories of people who have entrusted all of their donations and all of their history to us. And displays are just one of the best ways we can help tell their stories and get the word out that what the archives has to offer to students and anybody in the public and potentially any future patrons. So the steps. I have created a few steps that I break down that I personally follow. You can tweak and adapt them as you need for your displays. They are merely a guideline. So whether you're creating your first display or you're revamping one that you already have in existence. The three major considerations I use are preparation, brainstorming design, and assembly. We're going to cover all of the subsections much later, but this is generally how I like to break everything down. And again, if you take it piece by piece, as opposed to jumbling it all together, you will not get overwhelmed, and having this organized step-by-step process will put your mind at ease, and it will make creating a display flow a little bit easier. For the preparation, the theme, the audience, and the time frame. When creating a display, there are several things you need to consider. First and foremost, you need to decide the theme of the display. This is going to help you set the tone. And helpful tip, always give yourself more time than you think you need when creating a display. Some parts may have hiccups, and that's just part of the creating process, so sincerely, truly give yourself more time than you think you need. And when it comes to making a theme, you can have it be a holiday, you can have it be an event, or sometimes your collection itself may help to generate a theme. As I mentioned before, I had 3 themes with the 75th anniversary, homecoming, and then Archivist Month. But you don't have to have 3 themes. You can have 1. Just expand upon it. Consider if you have old letters, old Christmas cards, or holiday cards, any old cards. Those would be ideal to put out during the holiday season. You can make a display with that. Or if you have donations from an old local movie theater that is no longer operational. Everyone would love to see all of us old memorabilia, make it similar to a drive-in theater, and I guarantee you, if you can make an experience in a display, you will capture someone's attention. But back to organization real quick. You're going to want to probably create a display calendar if you are in charge of creating all the displays for your repository. I personally have an Excel spreadsheet because I am in charge of all of the displays in my repository. And so I know where each month, which physical displays need to be put up, need to be taken down, or you can have an actual physical calendar too, just something where you know your start and end date. It makes life a lot easier to have some sort of game plan when it comes to displays. If you are having trouble though with themes, I do have a recommendation for you. For those of us in universities, check our university calendars. Sometimes they have historic moments related to the university that you can use and have some of your resources showcase in a display. Or if there's nothing happening with the university, one website I use is a national holiday calendar. You wouldn't think every day would have a holiday, but there really is a holiday every day on this calendar, and some months honor different things. So October is American Archivist Month. They sincerely have a holiday and month for everything. So you can easily take that and just expand upon it and use some of the holdings you have in your repository and just make a beautiful display with that. That is your first thing you want to do. Get your theme. Now, again, sometimes your collection will inspire you, so you don't necessarily have to go out hunting for the theme. Sometimes the theme will find you. But it's important to really get organized and establish a schedule, knowing, okay, I want it up at this date and I have this amount of time to get it done. Scheduling is very important. And you also want to keep in mind who your viewers are. For us in a repository connected to a university, we are going to have college students. So the typical college student attending is going to be late teens, mid-20s. So you're going to want to gear those displays to those viewers in that age group. And we're going to go into how to attract more of that later. But just keep in mind that your viewers are also going to dictate some of your font, some of your color pattern, and then some of the items you incorporate for your display. Space and location. It is important to consider location and layout when you are display planning. You, again, want to ask yourself some more questions. Where will this display be located in the building? Is it easy for our patrons to find, or do we need to incorporate more signs? What are the dimensions of the space? And can anything inside of it or in that area be moved or adjusted? Can we manipulate it a bit? And what is our lighting? Do we have control of the lighting, or is there no way for us to turn the lights off and on in this display case? These are questions you truly really want to know. When I first did my first display, I did not know the display panels opened up to the left, to the right, and to the middle. So I literally crawled inside and was wiggling around trying to put everything up there. So knowing the layout, it really does help make putting things in a display case much easier. And if you find that you don't have control of the lights, which is something we do not have control of in our display cases, there are some tips that you can use so you don't have to completely eliminate including an artifact or a document in the display. We use either photographs of the image, or from one of the more recent displays we just did, we had some uniforms on display. We didn't want direct light exposure. We ended up taking some fabric and some drapery and create sort of a canopy, not directly under the lights, but far enough away to it was not a safety hazard, but enough to where it could lessen the intensity of the light. And it added a decorative element. So that is something to think about too. So you don't necessarily have to completely forego your vision. Just make a few tweaks here and there, and you will be able to accomplish what you like. It is sincerely important to be flexible in your planning and installation, because you're going to have to make adjustments along the way. It's going to happen. It's part of the creative process. It's part of a little bit of the joy and the heartache at the same time. But in the end, it really does come together. So just that's part of the reason why you also really want to give yourself a bit more time than you think to create your display. Sketching a layout. Can't emphasize this enough. You want to give yourself a blueprint. It is so much easier to manipulate either a digital image or a drawing on a sketch pad, whatever your preference is. I personally use Canva. You will hear me say Canva a lot during this workshop because it's just one of the tools I personally utilize. I created on the upper right-hand corner these little panels. That is the layout for my display cases. Any display case project that I have to do, I'm going to my blank layout and I'm drafting my ideas. So if I don't like where one thing is placed, I can move it at the click of a button, as opposed to crawling in a display case, physically moving it, crawling back out, and then stepping back to look at my work. Layouts, get a sketch, save yourself some time. It's a great way to put your vision down on paper and step back and look to see if you're really pleased with it. Now, one quick tip for those of us who have iPhones, you have a measuring app on your phone. It's great. Use it all the time. Just a click of a button and you drag your phone and it gives you, well, as accurate as you are with pointing, it gives you an accurate measurement of just how long, how wide, how tall, anything you want of your display. And you can take a photo of that. So you don't have to worry about carrying around a pencil and sketch pad and writing down how big or how small anything is. You'll have that right on your phone. It is so helpful. And you really do want to know the layout and the sizing, because if you choose to make something, you don't want to put all of your time, your effort, and your energy into making something and it's too small. And then you're scrambling to fill up space, because they will tell if you're scrambling to fill up space. And you also don't want to make something that's too big that you can't use, because then all of your time goes to waste, and time is precious. So you really just want to have those little details here and there before you really jump in too far. It really is one of the best choices you can give yourself. I also encourage everyone to, if you prefer to do something a little more techy, learn Canva. I'm self-taught. I watched their videos. I watched everything. Tutorials are great. You could take them at your own pace. And I learned, and I have used Canva in every display, from making a sign to possibly even making a graphic. I can't keep count of how many times I've used Canva for a display case. And again, lighting. Know your lighting. If it's something you can't control, accommodate for that. Make those important decisions. If you want to use a photo, if you want to make some sort of canopy with either fabric or a poster board to lessen the intensity, those are some options you have. You don't have to necessarily negate what you want to use, but if you have a look, if you're just uncomfortable with potentially exposing to light, understandable. But those are some options you have if you truly want to incorporate something. And the collection. As archivists, it's really important to know our collection, what we retain, and what we hold. So it's important to know these things with what you want to tell your story with. And you want to also consider, how can you tell a story with your holdings? So just because it comes as a yearbook does not mean you necessarily have to limit yourself to a yearbook. For my display, I knew I wanted lots and lots of photos. Everyone loves looking at photos. The students had a blast looking at all the photos. They would look at some of the older hairstyles, some of the old mustaches, beards, outfits, traditions. I would find them giggling by the display cases, just looking at everyone. And everyone loves looking at photos. They're a crowd pleaser. So if you choose to use photos, try looking at some of your yearbooks, some of your program books, sporting events, and also the music and the arts. We cannot forget the arts. They have a lot to offer too. And honestly, when going through all these photos, you may get a little distracted yourself. Looking at all of the photos, it's really enjoyable. So keep in mind that this is the story I want to tell. I can't necessarily include every single photo I like, but it is better to have more than have less, because if you want to do things right the first time, so you don't have to go back and redo them, it saves you time, it saves you energy. For us, we took either a photograph with our iPhones or we scanned the images. Either one works. Once we have the images we like, we uploaded them to a computer, saved them on a folder. It's a done deal. Anytime we need a photo for a specific event or any sort of display we want to do, we know where to go find it. We have an idea of what we're looking for, and it saves us so much time and effort because all the materials are already there set aside for you. So a little bit of planning for the future while working in the present. Brainstorming and designing. Excuse me one moment. Sorry. It's important that you have some understanding of color. Sometimes your theme will dictate your color choices. So if you're doing something like for the 4th of July, red, white, and blue, those are your colors. If you're doing something for a university or something with your organizations, you're going to want to use those colors so they mimic your organization. So for us, Nicholls, it's red and gray. Those colors are everywhere in this display because it's a homecoming display, and we really want to emphasize school pride, school spirit, and everything that we can use to promote the school, especially during 75-year anniversary. Sometimes colors can be tricky though. Some react differently, some can vibrate. You have a warm palette, you have a cool palette, you have primary, secondary colors. It can be a bit overwhelming. And I know some people are incredibly worried about making something that is tacky. That's okay. It's part of the trial and error. You just want to think about your color palette, think about your display, and if you really are uncertain about your color choices, I encourage you, this is a tip, to look into a book, speak with an artist, or even go online and watch a few videos regarding color theory for artists. You don't have to memorize it cover to cover, but it helps to be aware of how colors interact with each other. And colors also invoke emotions. Depending on which country and culture, different colors will mean different things. So if you are doing something with a different culture, you are going to want to research and you are going to want to expand upon your knowledge on what those colors mean to different people. So if you want something traditionally Western, which is where we are, you want something rather exciting and bold, you're going to want to go with those warm colors, the reds. But if you want something that will invoke peace and tranquility, you're going to want to go more for a blue. And this is just things you pick up along the way as you further your research and you get a little bit more experiences with dealing with color. Nothing to be worried about. It just takes a little time and a little practice. You also want to think about your layout. You want a focal point and you want to create eye movement. You don't want to overwhelm your viewers to where they just simply don't know where to look, or there really is too much going on to where they just can't take it all in. If you have trouble with creating eye movement, I encourage you to take a little peek at the golden ratio. Some of you know it under a different title. It is either the golden ratio, the golden number, golden proportion, or divine proportion. It is used by architects, artists, and mathematicians. The very simplistic way of explaining it, it uses to divide lines and rectangles in a successfully pleasing way. If you look at some of the more classical artworks or ancient civilization structures in the Western world, you can take an image of the golden ratio, place it against it, and you'll be able to follow the line. So this is a great little tool to have in your back pocket if you find you struggle a little bit with creating eye movement. It's a great little guide. And when it comes to also putting your display together, you also want to think about the space. You want to know about negative space, positive space, tension, and you want to keep in mind your signs are part of your display. While it's wonderful to have all of the photographs and have all of the memorabilia out, you have to think about your signs because sometimes they need a little extra guide to explain what the item is. And your signs are also an element. So something you just got to save a little space for your signs, which also is important to incorporate 2D and 3D elements in your display. You don't want everything to just be flat. It's okay, but it's more exciting and engaging if you have a few 3D elements here, a few 2D elements. It helps to create a little bit of flow for where you're looking and how you want the viewers to sort of have their eyes follow. Now, I mentioned a whole lot about art and designing. That might be a bit much for some who just simply haven't had much experiences. That's okay. I broke this down into 3 different sections: creating, exploring, and learning. So let's say you really do want to create something handmade. It's just something you want to do, or it's more financially feasible for your organization to create something handmade. The best way to do that is either Google, YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest, any social media site, and just begin with these few words: easy, free, or simple craft tutorials, free templates, how-tos. Easy, free, simple are great words when you are a first-time craft maker. It really helps. And also video tutorials and free templates, how-tos. Video tutorials, I can't say enough about them. They're wonderful. I use them all the time. You can replay them back as many times as you want, as many times as you need, and go at your own pace. It's a trial and error thing, but once you get it, you got it. It's like riding a bike. And then for exploring, this is if you need a little extra ideas on how you want things to look. So this is where you would get a little extra inspiration for display ideas, display examples, window displays, or trending designs. Trending designs is going to give you more of the look that is popular at this moment. Trending is fleeting, but if you want to look up something that is more lasting, classic or classy trending designs, those may last a little bit longer, but trending designs, those are going to be what the designs that are appealing to your college students. That is going to be the happening right now in this moment design. So if you want to have something that will really reach out to them, that's the one you want to go with. And then if you really do want to learn more about color and elements of design, you can start here with color theory and elements and principal designs, focal points, space with foreground, midground, and background. People use this when they do photo shoots. People use this whenever they paint. This is a tested and successful methods of learning a little bit more about colors and space. Again, you don't have to be experts. You don't have to memorize it cover to cover, but being somewhat aware of these principles and having that thought in the back of your mind will sincerely help you be more confident when you go to create a display, because everybody is creative. They may not think it, but there's a little spark inside of everyone that can create something. These are just a few little guidelines for you to figure out how to make it shine a little brighter. Now, if you really, really want to make life easier on yourself, organizing a display kit. It is a game changer. Some of these items you already have at your desk, but you want to have a display kit. You don't necessarily have to have it in a box. You don't necessarily have to have any certain way of organizing it. Just know where all of these supplies are. Know where this is its little spot for it. And every time you go to make a display, you grab your little box, you grab your little toolkit, whatever you decide to organize it in, and you have it right there. Save you time and energy. You don't want to start a project and then are scrambling to find scissors. Can't remember where you left the glue gun or any of that. Have it all in one spot. Makes life so much easier. Now, these are just some of the items I use often for when I make my displays. You don't have to follow it to a T. This is just a little guideline, just a few suggestions. You can take and add as you need. Scissors, pencils, tape, box cutter, cardboard boxes, yardstick, glue gun, hot glue sticks, floral wire, push pins, thread in neutral colors, paints, paintbrushes, fabric, and solid and neutral colors, card paper or cardstock. Scissors, pencils, we have those. Those are at our desk. Cardboard boxes, you can go out and find them, but sometimes the cardboard boxes come to us. Most of the time when we get our donations or deeds of gifts and everything, they come in cardboard boxes. So if they're in relatively good condition and they're pretty clean, save the cardboard boxes after you process everything. You can use them to either create something entirely new, or you can use them to add a little height depth in your display cases. So multi-purpose. Glue gun and glue sticks, love them. Have more glue sticks than you think you need. And just a little tip, when you work with a hot glue gun, use one of the glue sticks to help you press down on the item you just glued so you don't have to burn your finger. It's really, really helpful to have an extra glue stick on hand. And then the thread and the fabric and neutral colors and solid neutral colors, you don't want to take away from your display. The display is showcasing your archival item. You don't want to go and grab a pattern that's far too busy, way too shiny, sparkly, glittery, any of that. The fabric's not on display. The fabric is an element to highlight and uplift what you are displaying. So that's why you want to aim for those solid neutral colors. And if you do have to purchase, you want to use something that you can use more than one time. So if you get those blacks, those whites, those grays, something that could either absorb light, reflect light, depending on your lighting situation, and something that can just blend in with any color that you have on your item, it saves a lot of time. You don't have to think too hard about it. You just grab one of your colors and it helps you. It sincerely, it helps elevate the look of some items that you have. Okay, and the sketch. Oh, before I go on, back to fabric. So when you are going to purchase, let me see if it can let me, okay. If you do have to purchase some items, hit the sales. Craft stores, they often have sales. So those paints, those paintbrushes, fabric, check the sales, check to see what weekly sales they have to offer. And if you really do want to get some fabric for your organization, a lot of the craft stores or the craft sections of stores have little areas in the back where they have pre-cut fabric because it's just not enough to keep on the bolt. And those are pretty good. Those are pretty good and they are on sale. So something to consider. Okay, now back to the sketch. Here's my layout. Here is how I organized everything on Canva. I used my basic layout that I had pre-made, decided what I wanted to include on everything, and this is the result. I knew I wanted to have a banner that carried over to the two display cases. So 3 cheers to 75 years, homecoming, has to be a little peppy, has to be a little spirited. And then I also wanted to include diamonds because diamonds are the symbol for the 75th anniversary. Excuse me. Yes. And I knew I wanted to include diamonds in 2 different colors. This relays back into doing a little research on your display. So for those of you who don't know, Nicholls used to be part of LSU. So Louisiana State University, which their school colors are purple and gold. So that's why we have silver, gray, and gold diamonds in this display. And I also knew I wanted to have photos. Again, everybody loves a photo. They love looking at them. And photos tell a story that sometimes words can't. So you have these moments, you have these memories, and you have, I mean, it's this moment in time you will not get back. It's sealed, it's preserved, and people are drawn to them, especially in a university where we're in a small town. Most people's family members have attended this university. So there's a very likely chance that they were seeing aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, cousins, anybody that was related to them. And seeing family members in displays also, it makes their day. And then on the other side, I wanted something a bit more whimsical. You can go more museum structured and have everything balanced on each eye level. But for me, I decided since it's homecoming, we're going to do fun, we're going to do whimsy. And I decided to do a mailbox with letters just pouring out of it from every single direction. And these were intended to be love letters from Nicholls to Nicholls as a way to showcase that this is all of the people, these are all of the lives that have just traveled through the university within 75 years. This is the impact they left. There's more than I could include, truthfully, but it gave students a time to just stop and just look over everything and just be amazed, truthfully. Now, going in a little deeper on the building, I chose to hand make my items because I do like to hand make my items, and it is also a more cost-effective way. So cardboard boxes. This mailbox, it is 2 cardboard boxes glued together with a few ribbons as accents hot glued on the edges, and then our logo and the logo for the 75th anniversary. For this, all I did was watch a video tutorial a lot, take it piece by piece, and we had cardboard boxes laying around because the entire floors of our building are being redone. So all of the books had to be put into boxes. Now some of those books are back on the shelves and we just have an excess of boxes. So rather than having the boxes go to waste, I decided a mailbox would be better for them. And then the diamonds. This was a free template I found online. Trial and error. Please give yourself more time than you think you need if you're building things, because you're going to mess up. You're going to get a little frustrated, but just keep in mind, if somebody else could build it, so can you. There's a reason it's available for people to use. You're going to have fun making this. Making displays should be fun. They should be enjoyable. And it is a process, and it really is very similar to having a second job. But the end product is just so worth it, and it makes so many people happy. So having the time and the energy to dedicate to making some of your items, handmade items, go a long way. And then once you make it once, you don't have to make it again. You just gotta store it away until your next display. So that's another wonderful benefit of them. You make it to how you like, and you get to keep it for however long you need. Okay, and the letters. Here we go with Canva again. All of these letters I made using Canva. You just find a template you like. I wanted to have one that looked like an old postcard. I tweaked it a little bit. I added our logo. I added a little stamp in print, and I made the colors of our university's theme. Took photos from those yearbooks, program books, the ones that were scanned, the one that were photographed, had them on the side. There were a lot of photographs. Found a font that looked similar to handwriting, and I just added a happy little message on each one. Some are different, some are not, but they all have the different years that they were there. So the king and queen of homecoming from 2022, and then some of our students who were playing in the fountain in 1974. And again, some of these photos were more cheerful, homecoming, tradition. Others were just a little silly, and the students loved them. They absolutely had a blast looking at all of these photos. And on the back, because I wanted each postcard to be viewable from every angle, I just didn't want a blank spot on the back. I made another logo, Happy 75 Years, with our Nicholls logo. Once they were done, printed them out, hand cut each one, taped them together, and that was it. I don't have to remake them unless one of them gets damaged. But once you make something and you make it well, you don't have to worry about making it again. You just have to worry about storing it away for the next display. And these letters were, people loved them. So that's one way you can use, skipping ahead. That's one way you can use your images. You don't have to limit it to the case it comes in. So if it's just a photograph, or if it's a scrapbook or a yearbook, it doesn't have to be limited there. You can take those images and expand upon them to better tell the story you would like. You don't need to necessarily manipulate them too much. Just take the photo and use it to the way you want to tell the story. Now, excuse me again. The signs. When you're making your display, you get so wrapped up in making sure all of the elements are there, all the artifacts are in their little proper spaces and everything, you may neglect the signs. Try not to do that. Signs are an integral part of your display. Sometimes you may need more than one. I had two. I did the banner that was hanging in the back of the displays, and then I also had this little tripod style sign. These fans, we purchased them for one past event. We have used them every single time we've had a homecoming event or something that we had to represent Nicholls colors. So that's part of the important thing of being conscious on what you want to buy. You want to use something that you're going to use and reuse until it just falls apart. And this has been used and reused plenty of times. Now the signs, the C5, that was our sign entry into the homecoming contest, so we don't really need to focus on that one. It's the sign right here and the sign right here. These are the two I made on Canva. Both of our mascots for the football teams who were playing in that game. They're interacting, celebrating 75 years, telling people this is the homecoming display for the Nicholls Library. Cute little interaction. And then underneath, I made the decision that I wanted students to have a bit more of an engaging time when they were looking at the display, because all of the photos were not enough to me. So I decided, let's do something a bit more interactive. What is something that students like that can really coincide with the images? Music. So I decided to create a playlist selecting 3 songs from each decade, starting at 1948, ending in 2023. So the students could scan the QR code either here on this sign, excuse me, or in one of the letters I made, just in case they completely missed the sign entirely and they saw the QR code. and it connected them to a Spotify playlist that had all of these songs that potentially many of these students that they are viewing listen to. So that was also a fun little tweak, a little extra something to add to your display to make it interactive, because you don't always just want to have something that they're going to look at and then walk away. You want something that they kind of take with them, and a playlist is really good. And the result. So here is the finished product. This took a while. This took a while to make. This was a labor of love. This is what 75 years of Nicholls looks like. The 2 display cases were absolutely just filled with images, all from the archives. None of these photos were sought elsewhere. Everything you see on display, opposed from the memorabilia and the little flags and the painting and the mailbox, all archives. So these displays really truly are a great way for you to highlight and showcase what the archives have to offer, because again, many of the students do not know until you speak with them. You actually have to approach them. Rarely do they approach you and talk with them as if they are future colleagues, or they are someone who is potentially entering in your field and they want to know more. Having these conversations with them, it's really meaningful, and it really does change how they want to interact with you and your repository. We had students come up and ask me tons of questions about the displays. Why the diamonds? How many photos are in here? Can we take a photo? There were so many selfies. There were so many group photos. It was crazy. I never imagined that so many students would love this as much as they did. And it gave us an opportunity to say, this is our story. This is the history of Nicholls. Everything right here in these display cases is telling the story. And now you are a part of this. So here's the comparison, just so you can see why the layout and then the final result. So the before and then the after. So again, banner, diamonds, photos, painting. Simple. I wasn't too hung up on how I wanted everything to go. I just had a general idea and said, okay, this is where I want these 3 things to go. Everything else we'll have a little wiggle room for. And we did. So you don't necessarily have to say, this is my plan, I'm sticking to it, nothing can be altered from this. You have to be a little flexible. So you don't have to be quite so detailed with your layout. Just, again, a guide to help you, and especially if someone is going to help you put these displays up. This is actually a really great way to get students involved too, because it showcases that they can work as a team, that they're willing to take instructions, and that they're willing to work together to have a finished product. And this, having them help with displays, looks great on their resumes. It really does. It showcases a lot of character in that student. And your coworkers also can help you with these. Having the layout and just say, hey, this is my general idea, could you help me put it together? Done deal. It's simply a way to help you and have you get help from others to create your finished design. Okay, and here's just a little closer look. You can see everything. I could go through and explain things. These are the paper fans we purchased, used them all the time. Some memorabilia from sporting events, flags. This is our fight song. I made this on Canva, printed it out, took some ribbon we had lying around and an old frame that was just not getting used, and I made a quick little border, and it came out kind of nice, and just put it in the display, and it added a little bit of that extra weight so the 2 sides are balanced, part of the design theory. And then all of these photos. So the middle, I wanted to focus on the histories, the building of these buildings. And I wanted a painting of the very first building that was on Nicholls campus, which was Elkins. So I had some masonite lying around the house. I paint sort of a little bit, and I said, let me just do a quick little painting, and boom, done. One of the large elements adds a little weight to the piece, doesn't take away, it adds, and you can see all of the photos on all of the sides sort of just hugging this one painting. And you can see that we have all of our homecoming traditions here on this side, the pirogue races, the bonfires, the football games. They love seeing all the traditions. And then our mascot, our football team, student life. And then you can see some of the coins and the diamonds that were gold and silver just dangling from the banner up above. And again, it's a balance. It's an eye movement. It's 2D and it's 3D. So those are the things you kind of want to have in your little mental checkbox when you are making these displays. And then the comparison for the 75 years with the letters. So you can see again, not exact, but gets the general idea across. A mailbox with our logo, diamonds, banner, letters everywhere. Now, I originally was not going to use the fans in this one, but after I put everything up, I was like, okay, it's very one color. And it's not, we need a little extra weight. Sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you will finish and say, we need a little extra something. Having these little extra somethings in your repertoire are great. That way you don't have to scramble to make something. So something to keep in mind. And then here is a closer look at all of the letters and the mailbox. Again, it's a cardboard box with hot glue and paint. Simple enough. Just take your time to follow the directions and you can make this. The diamonds in the cardboard box, mailbox, are something you can make. You're going to know your skill level, but I guarantee you, if you give yourself enough time and patience to make something, you will make it and you will surprise yourself. But back to the letters. I knew I wanted the letters to just be pouring out of this mailbox. So I have 3 little lines that are the neutral thread, so they wouldn't showcase too much. And they are just connecting all of these letters, which you can see different images from every angle, and they're pinned to the back of the display case. And the letters I wanted them to look like they just flew out of that mailbox and landed where they stuck. And there are even some on the floor. Again, people truly loved looking at these, reading them, and seeing all of the photos. And then right here in the middle, we have our university president's dog, and even he signed. Little Boots put a paw print. So that little extra touch, that made everyone laugh. And then again, here, the QR code for the playlist, should they have missed the sign. So it's important to kind of have things here and there more than once. Let's see. So again, just because one of your archival elements comes a certain way doesn't mean you necessarily have to abide by that limitation. You can take it and you can sort of alter it, but still keep the gist of it. So the photos, they didn't have to stay in a yearbook. They could go on letters. They could go and look like a collage. And again, display cases are just such a great way of telling the stories that we have in the archives that people entrusted to us. We have so many moments, we have so many lives and so much history that we can showcase and tell everyone about, but not everybody really knows what happens in the archives. So the displays are really just the best possible way to showcase how important the archives is. And it's not an intimidating, scary place like some people think. It can actually be really funny, and you can find yourself really laughing and just enjoying yourself here. This is just something you can do with some of the photos you have, or take inspiration from what I've talked about and apply it to your own display cases. Thank you. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation.